Hello and welcome along once again to this latest YouTube production here at Andy Holdings speedfigures.co.uk. Andy, taking a look back at all the action from May the 24th to May the 31st based on the time figures that we have. We've got some good numbers once again to talk about, beginning at the start of the week with a horse called Alphadal, who created quite an impression on the all-weather at Lingfield on the 25th, winning in pretty stylish fashion, it has to be said. Sarumi, the previous Wood-Ditton winner, had set a good gallop from the front, and he looked, to be fair, in control for most of the journey until Alphadal came swooping round the outside at the 2 furlong marker, and then quickened past him quite readily in the closing stages to win with quite a bit in hand. His closing sectionals are very good to go along with a very fast overall time that we got, 91, which is pretty good for a race of that nature on the all-weather. I think he'll probably go to Royal Ascot, one would imagine. And he's got an opening handicap mark of 8.97, which should get him into that new 1.25 mile race for 3-year-olds. So he's very much one to keep on the right side of. And then we got a Sandown on 8.27, where we had two back-to-back performances of note. Yukon Glen, who won the Brigadier Gerard, courtesy of a very strong pace. One would almost suggest a suicidal pace set by Sangarius and others. And it meant that Paul Morelli could just sit in behind towards the back and pick them off late on a horse that stays the trip really well. And also, as we know in the past, handles soft ground very well. He clocked a 97 on our time figures, which was the best race on the card, furlong per furlong. But hot on the heels of that was Dashing Roger, who won the concluding handicap, the Whitsun Cup. He had got previous form last season on soft ground at Pontefract, so there was always strong belief that he was going to be very effective at the Esher venue, and then that proved to be the case when he came swooping through easily to win with quite a bit in hand. Again, clocking a very fast time figure of 97, which is pretty good for that grade and for a handicap, certainly compared to Yukon Glen's time. And it was also noticeable that his back-end sectionals as well were of equal of the Group 3 contest. So he's clearly going the right way, Dashing Roger. Connections might put him in the Royal Hunt Cup. He's sure to get in that. But whether he gets his ground on the day is very much open to question. But when he does get his soft ground, Dashing Roger is very much a force to be reckoned with. On the same day, a horse called Bringsteed clocked a good decent number, 94 on our time figures over at Haydock. Bit of a disappointment first time out when setting the pace and 2-3, but they put the hood on and they dropped him in, and it made all the difference because he came through on the bridle to win in the end quite comfortably, even though Lexicon Knight narrowed the eventual winning margin down. He was always a full value for his length and a half victory. Probably could have won with a little bit more ease had he been ridden out all the way to the line. So Bringsteed, very much a 3-year-old going places there for the David Simcock team. Just two more to touch upon. Kinross, as one would expect, clocked a very good time and winning the John of Gaunt over at Haydock on the Saturday. He's always been a classy individual ever since he won on his debut at Newmarket, but things haven't quite panned out for him. They ran him in the Guineas, they ran him in several group races, and he was even a bit of disappointment over in Maidan as well throughout the winter period when he just didn't settle into racing over in the desert. But they brought him back, and he looked as good as ever when winning a strongly run 7 furlong contest and 98 in our time figures, beating a whole host of in-form performers and horses that run the track well, such as River Nymph, Safe Voyage, and Golden Journey, very much solid benchmarks in and around that level. So Kinross, very much on the upgrade, is another one to take forward. And the other one to mention as well was called Tashcan, who won the day before at Haydock. He'd previously finished second at Yorkby on Condo Island on good ground, but he seemed to handle the softer ground better than most at the Merseyside venue, as he'd done previously at Hamilton early on in the season. So not necessarily soft ground's a prerequisite for Tashcan, but it certainly allows him to run up to a very, very high standard. He'd be interesting if he went back to York. You'd certainly look at him in those 1.25 mile handicaps towards the back end of the season. Maybe something like the Melrose, being as he's already handled York. He's very much a race Connections will have in mind. But do remember the name Tashcan, based on our time figures, a 96, winning that handicap. He looks one to keep on the right side. So there we go. As ever, half a dozen horses for you to keep on into your notebooks. Alphadel, who was a very progressive 3-year-old. Dashing Roger, Yukon Glen from Sandown. Bringsty, who won at Haydock quite well. Another 2 from Haydock as well, Tashkan and their classy Kinross. Complete the roll of honour for this week's Fast 5 Figures at Andy Holdings, speedfigures.co.uk. Look forward to your company next week when we're going to be discussing many decent races one would expect, culminating, of course, in the Kazoo Derby and Oaks towards the back end of the week at Epsom. So until then, it's me signing off for now.